Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barak wa salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for MCC's New Muslim Ramadan Stories series. Today, alhamdulillah, we have Sister Lizette with us. Assalamu alaikum, Lizette.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much for joining us today and being willing to share your story with us. Okay, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk with you guys all. Okay, so I have been Muslim for 7 years in February, and I've been a part of this community, for like maybe 6 years. The first year I was a little isolated. And I lived in the East Bay, and I have three kids, a 6-year-old daughter, and then 10 and 15-year-old sons. Um, what else about myself? I'm a Latina convert. So my
Mashallah.
parents are, my mother's Mexican, my father's Salvadoreño. And as we know, there's a big influx of Latino converts. So I think
Alhamdulillah,
that's
mashallah.
awesome because definitely it's a beautiful thing to see. And I'm hoping, inshallah, my family members join that influx of people.
Inshallah, I mean,
Inshallah.
mashallah, mashallah. Okay, so let's take it back. So you said you've been Muslim for about 6 years, right?
7.
7 years. Okay, mashallah. So can you tell us about your first Ramadan? Do you remember how you felt going into it? And what do you remember most about that first Ramadan?
Okay, alhamdulillah. So my first Ramadan, I actually was pregnant with Naima, my daughter.
Mashallah.
So I remember I took my shahada in February, and at that time Ramadan was around July because I remember she was a Ramadan baby.
Mashallah.
And I don't remember too much detail about it, but I do remember that a lot of it, I think, just a lot of it, since it was so new, I honestly don't think I knew exactly what needed to be done during the first Ramadan. And also, in addition to that, I was taking care of a newborn baby. So the
Subhanallah.
very first one, I think I was very disconnected, but not for like negative reasons, but more for like, just things that kind of just naturally made me disconnect. I had a newborn baby. I was a new Muslim, and I wasn't really. I didn't know a lot of people in the community. So the very first one, I think was I didn't really feel like Ramadan in a way.
Subhanallah. Okay, so then let's talk about your second one.
Okay.
How is it different? And do you, did you do anything in between your first Ramadan and second Ramadan that kind of like helped you have a different experience or be more into it the next Ramadan?
So okay, great question. So the second Ramadan, in between that, I definitely did connect more, try to connect with community members, and in addition to me not remembering, because it's been so long ago, my memory is also not the best, mommy brain.
Yep.
Um, but I do remember the second Ramadan. I think that's the one that I first and then felt like some moment of loneliness. And I think as converts, a lot of us, not all, but a lot of us have been through that moment of feeling disconnected because we're new, and we really don't know a lot of people. And so I remember remember one thing in specific. I remember I went to the masjid. I'm pretty sure it was my second Ramadan. I went to the masjid, and then there was some sisters there, and she said something. One of the sisters, she said something around, "Oh yeah, like I saw her last night at iftar," and I was like, "You guys get together for iftars?" Like I was like, "Oh my god, why should we get together?" So like this whole concept of like families like celebrate, like break their fast together. You don't have to be in your
Subhanallah.
home alone. And I remember like that was so new to me. So that's when I started trying to like kind of like reach out. But I think one of the things that is really prevalent amongst new Muslims, because I remember I felt it, was like being shy to ask or finding a way to ask, like, "Hey, can I go to your house for iftar?" And not only that, but I had three kids at the time who were young, and so it was hard. It was kind of weird to just think of myself going to someone else's house for iftar with three young kids, right? Especially like a 1-year-old. Naima was like around 1 at that time.
Mm.
And so I remember it was more about like trying to find ways to connect and trying to find at the same time learning like what was Ramadan going to look like for me, like what are the special moments of Ramadan, like what am I supposed to be doing? Because remember I just had a baby, so I was like
Yeah.
focusing a lot on like her, and so as Ramadan got closer the second time, I was trying to focus on like, okay, well, what is Ramadan about? What do I have to do? So I think the first 2 to 3 Ramadans were kind of around that. The third one was a little better, but it
Mhm.
was more about like learning like what I had to do and also being, exposed to this idea of like, oh, like, I can have iftar with other people. I don't have to be alone. But definitely that sense of loneliness was there that I've heard other converts kind of go through.
SubhanAllah, that's such a good reminder for us, Lizette, for, you know, people to open their homes, if they know any new Muslims, to open their homes to their friends, new Muslim friends, especially who don't have, family that they can spend iftar with, or break the fast with, mashallah.
I agree. And also like finding a way to invite them because like I remember specifically like not knowing first of all, I wasn't gonna go to someone and say, "Hey, can I come over?"
Mm,
But then also like I didn't know many people to ask at the moment. Like I remember there was one sister who had a baby around the same time I did, so I think I felt comfortable just with her,
mm,
and maybe a few other sisters, but I didn't know a lot of people. So I think one thing, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that's one thing I wanted to kind of include in this part of it was to encourage Muslims in our community, like to not wait for a new convert to say like, "Hey, can I come over?" Because that's
mm,
kind of weird, but to say, even just like casually ask, like if we know they're a new convert, or it's one of their first Ramadans, not just the first, but to ask them like, "What are you doing for iftars? What do your iftars look like? Like, who are you hanging out with?" And I
mm.
think that's a good way to kind of get them to open up and possibly, have an opportunity to invite them over.
SubhanAllah, mashallah. Thank you so much for sharing that.
My pleasure.
Okay, so let's move on then. Let's, I mean, even including those first three of Ramadans, what would you say has been the biggest struggle or struggles that you've faced during Ramadan?
In general, right? In general,
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
I think one main struggle for me has always been just Sahur because for many reasons, um, there's many parts that different aspects that play a part in it, right? Like, getting used to getting up early in the morning and eating and having an appetite, right?
Yep.
But then also, I've definitely noticed now that my sons are fasting, that for the last 2 Ramadans, it's been easier for me to do suhoor
Mm,
because I get up and I eat with them, right? And the
mashallah.
whereas before it was just me and it's harder. So that was always difficult for me. First of all, getting up early, then not having an appetite, and then kind of forcing myself to eat.
Mhm,
And like suhoor, obviously, it's not like it's not a fun. It's not necessary that you have to do that before you fast, but
mm,
it is something that is encouraged. It is sunnah, and so I think it's just nice to do it, and it makes it a little easier to fast during the whole day. So having someone there to do suhoor with makes it easier. That's always been a struggle for me. And I remember once there was a sister who came over. We did a sleepover, her and her kids, and me and my kids, and we did suhoor together. And that was one
mashallah.
of the funnest suhoors we ever had. And it was one of the
Mashallah.
easiest ones because it literally felt like a party, like at 3 in the
Mm,
morning,
yeah.
getting
Subhanallah.
up and
Mashallah.
doing it, together. So that's made that aspect of it easier. So that's one struggle that comes to mind. I mean, I know there's probably others, but that's one that kind of is prevalent in my head.
And I can imagine that's a common one for a lot of single converts who are living by themselves and subhanAllah are getting up by themselves for suhoor every day. And, that's just such a huge struggle. We don't think of it as a struggle, but doing it by yourself is a big one, subhanAllah.
Yeah, I remember one brother. He mentioned how in a lecture he was giving how he was giving a story of how he remembered he would get up when he was in his parents' house, wake up, and then grab like a cereal bar or an apple from the fridge because it was his parents' home, and then walking out, and that was a support, right? And it's
Subhanallah.
like when he said that. like it totally pulled at the strings of my heart because I was like, oh my God, like I can connect with that, you know.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure there were other Muslims who felt that. And so it's not just about not eating in the morning, but it's like the whole, everything around it, like not having anyone there or even having
Yeah.
to sneak in something to eat in the morning for
Mm.
sahur because
Subhan.
you're the only convert or the only Muslim in your
Mm.
home. And so, but alhamdulillah, as the years go by, it gets easier, which is, I think it's like, like it's, you don't know, I heard this recently, like you don't know what daylight looks like unless you know the darkness. And so like
Mm.
you really
Subhanallah.
appreciate having someone to have suhoor with when you've been on the opposite side of that.
Subhanallah, mashallah. Okay, so how about on the flip side? Can
Mhm.
you tell us a special Ramadan moment or memory that you
Yeah,
can
oh my
think of?
God, so many. Let me see. Let's see, sorry. I know I should have totally like had to rack my brain earlier
You're
for this.
okay.
I think oh, I remember one. I remember one where we went to Ta'leef and they had Qiyam.
Mm.
And that one was really special because Aisha Prime was there.
So,
And so it was beautiful because I think that was one of my first Qiyams. And so
mm,
I didn't know exactly what to do. But it was like, just her talk was amazing. Being around all these other sisters there was amazing. Staying up all night, just making dua to Allah was amazing. And then having that amazing food that Talif always has afterwards was amazing. And so it was a great experience. And that kind of opened up the path for me to do that with other people or even by myself.
mm,
And so that was a great experience. And I haven't done it with my kids, but I definitely want to have a day when I do qiyam with my kids there.
mm,
I think my youngest might fall asleep. But like my son, like and my middle son, he's really, mashallah, really into his deen right now, alhamdulillah. And so
mashallah,
maybe
mashallah.
doing it with him, I think would be really fun. But that night was really, really, really fun. Not only because it was like a combination of being in community and then being in a space that I consider like a very comfortable space and like a family's home, I guess you can say. Like
Mm,
it's a very dear space to me. And then having that connection with Allah with all those people around and then top it off with good food at 3 in the
subhanallah.
morning. It was awesome.
Subhanallah, mashallah. And I want to mention that we're talking about Talif in Fremont. Mashallah, it's a beautiful organization. May Allah reward Talif and grant them success in their mission. I
I
mean,
mean,
okay, so this is an interesting one. So in the Project Lena book by Anse Tamara, she talks about, or she and Anse Najia talk about creating nostalgia for yourself and your family. We grew up with different religions, right? We weren't born Muslims, so growing up, we had different traditions and celebrations that when we think of they pull at our heartstrings in some way because there's nostalgia associated with them. So, as new Muslims, we're able to create traditions for ourselves, new traditions. So, I was wondering if you have started any new traditions for your family, and also, um, like, what have you pulled into it? Like, you're Latina. You mentioned that you're Latina. Did you mention? Did you pull in any like Latina foods or anything like that into your traditions that you may
uh,
have started for Ramadan?
that's a great question. A fun question. So I know definitely one of the traditions we started that, or is a tradition I think amongst a lot of Muslims, is moon sighting, and
Mm,
so we try to
mashallah.
make it a fact to go um, every beginning of Ramadan to sight the moon. And this year was amazing. There was a lot of Muslims, given COVID just with the last couple of years, so many people were ready to go moon sighting.
Everybody was out in full force this year,
Yes, it was
mashallah.
so. I know at the Lawrence Hall of Science and at MCC and at Mount Tamalpais, there was a
Mm,
lot of families in all three places, which is amazing.
mashallah.
So that definitely is a tradition that we try to keep. And in addition to that, we always like try to remember to bring like bags of cookies or like the little glow in the dark lights. Because I think
Mm,
one of the first Ramadans where me and the kids went up to go moon sighting, I remember it got so dark. All you can see was kids running around with the little lights. Like little somebody
That is
gave out like little ring lights, and it was so cute, like
that is such
everywhere,
a good
right?
idea, mashallah.
It was amazing. Not only can you make sure they don't leave, the premises, but see where they are, but just the fact that, you see all these lights everywhere, it was really nice. So we tried to
Yeah,
always have glow in the dark lights and then cookies or treats. So that's definitely part of that tradition. And then we always decorate. I do like a big thing around decorations because I want the kids to see that Ramadan is very special for us. So we go all out with decorations. I wish I can show
mashallah.
you the decorations we have right now. And then we also have a calendar. So we do a calendar, and we have two. We have one calendar that marks the Ramadan nights, and one calendar where we put treats in there. And
Nice.
I didn't get a chance to put that one up because that one's handmade, and I didn't have time. But in each envelope, I always put like a little treat, like a
Mashallah.
chocolate for each kid. And so each night, and we usually switch off either right after Maghrib or right yeah, either right after Maghrib or right when after we eat dinner, after we have iftar, they get to get their candy out, and then they move the little moon over to the next day. So
Mashallah.
that's like a little tradition that we have set up. And for now, I think those are the main ones. I'm trying to implement other ones. We usually try to always have a suhoor night where we stay up late and we go meet with friends and we go have suhoor like at some
Nice.
restaurants or something
Mm,
like Murchie's or
mhm,
if we can't go that far then Denny's or something.
mhm.
But and I'm not promoting Denny's. I'm just saying. and
No worries.
um and it's really fun. It's a really fun night. So those are some of the traditions, and I'm definitely trying to create other ones.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. Okay. So a bit of a tangent. Mashallah, I know that you recently were blessed with a chance to go for Umrah. So, and this was your first Umrah, mashallah. So, can you just share a little bit about your experience, and then also tell us how, if and how, your Umrah experience has changed your Ramadan experience this year so far? And it's only been a few days, but you know,
Okay, mashallah. So yeah, alhamdulillah, Umrah was amazing. It was just so many different experiences that I can't even, like say them all. Like it was amazing. It was beyond what I expected, and
alhamdulillah,
that's
mashallah.
you know with the clause of I didn't know what to expect, right?
Mm,
So it was like beyond whatever I would have expected. Yeah, whatever I would have expected, it was beyond that, right? It was
subhanallah.
amazing, and I think the group of people we went with did a played a big part of that.
Mhm.
I think we definitely created a family. There was like 44 people, I think, from all over the country, and there was a few from the Bay Area. And even the ones who went from the Bay Area, I didn't know them. I only knew one person. Everyone else, I'd seen them around, a few of them, but I didn't know them. And I think the fact that we created that family circle was amazing. It just made the experience so much more better than I guess it being just me and by myself or something, or
Mashallah.
people I didn't connect with.
Mhm.
And I think that definitely was a blessing from Allah. And it definitely so even it's so crazy because even though we came back end of December and it's only been a few months, I think with how hectic life is, I was already like acclimated to like the way that life is here, like hectic and crazy and busy and
Mm,
overwhelmed.
yep.
And so I quickly like kind of started losing that touch, that a feeling of like the different lifestyle and being connected to Allah, um, because of life here. And I was trying my best to stay connected to it, but it was so hard. And so with Ramadan here, I'm so glad that it's here because I think I can definitely go back to a lot of the memories from Umrah. And I feel like I learned a lot from Umrah, from the teachers that were there, that will
Mashallah.
help me, kind of ground myself and be more focused on what I need to be focused on during Ramadan. And one of the things I think that's really special, that one particular thing is that I have these dates, these Ajwa dates that Sister Zainab gave us,
Mashallah.
and these are dates that are from the farm. for Salman al-Farsi, like when they had to buy off the farm in order to gain his freedom
Mm,
from his slaveholder. And so those dates are amazing. And so I'm usually not a date fan. And so this is the first Ramadan that I'm actually eating dates every suhoor. And
mashallah.
it's actually made a big difference for many reasons. It actually helps hold the fast easier,
Mm,
and I'm not forcing myself to do sunnah, which is have a date.
yeah.
And it just feels so, there's something special about like eating a date from a blessed farm that
Subhan-
came directly from, from Mecca, not Mecca, I think in Medina, from Medina. And I'm just very grateful to Sister Zainab for making that opportunity happen, for setting that up. And so I feel
Mashallah.
like that definitely is a big part of this Ramadan. And the kids
Mashallah.
too, like they don't like dates, but
Hmm.
they love those. And my mom, my
Mashallah.
mom has been like, I have like 3 packs of dates from different people who gave me some, and she always goes for the ajwa date.
Oh,
And so
mashallah.
like, she liked them as well. So it's just one of those special tokens in this Ramadan, and I'm hoping, inshallah, that years later I can look back and remember like those Ajwa dates as a special part of this Ramadan, inshallah.
Mashallah. Mashallah. Okay, so we're down to our last question, Alhamdulillah. What advice would 2022 Lizette give to the Lizette of 7 years ago when you were first experiencing,
Um,
Ramadan, or your first, as a new convert, basically, what advice would you give that Lizette as you embark on Ramadan? And at that time you were pregnant, so maybe it's a different thing, but just as a new Muslim, what would you give yourself? What advice
okay,
would you give yourself?
that's a great question. Um, I would say to I guess I would say to try to find a way to be in community, because I think it definitely makes a difference. I would recommend, my advice would be for new Muslim Lizette to find ways to be with community, to kind of to go to the masjid and connect with people, so won't be home alone feeling lonely. Um, to also study Quran, because I know that, and it doesn't have to be Arabic, but more like to it could be the English translation, because I feel like that's um, a big part of Ramadan that I didn't really know, was like a key part of Ramadan until years
Mm,
later, you know,
mhm.
and I think it definitely is a great opportunity to connect to the Quran and to gain a lot of wisdom, and knowledge from it. So focusing on that, but I think key would be like try to be in the community, because you can get a lot of all of that within the community. You see people reading Quran. You also might get invited to iftars, or nowadays, I don't know if they had it back then. They probably did, but I didn't know. Go to iftars at the masjid.
Mm,
And so I would definitely say just be in community, and that makes it very, it makes it easier, very special, and it removes that loneliness. So that's like the, I guess, the key advice I would give.
alhamdulillah, mashallah. It's beautiful advice, mashallah. Um, SubhanAllah, so many people took Shahada in the last couple of years, and with the pandemic, it's just, I can't imagine how hard that was. And I'm sure there was a beauty and blessing that came with that and being in solitude, but SubhanAllah, definitely being in community is, makes such a
Um,
big difference.
I,
SubhanAllah.
ha- I just actually, I'll share it with you guys, just because um yeah, I don't think anyone from our community will know anyone from there. But like, my, not like it'll make a difference, but I recently got news yesterday from my mom, and I'm trying to verify this, that my one of my cousins, um from he's kind of like an adopted cousin.
Hmm.
His son is Muslim, and his son is 15. He took
Mashallah.
shahada. And
Mashallah.
so she said, she told me, your auntie told me that so and so, is Muslim. And I was like, are you serious? So I'm trying to get in contact with him. I'm so excited. Like, he
Mashallah.
grew up with my son. They used to play together all the time. My son is 15 as well. And I'm just like praying to Allah that, it's correct and it's valid. Only because in the Latino culture, Latino community, sometimes they'll confuse Islam with other religions. Like anyone that, in terms of like they might like somebody might be Hindu, and
Mhm.
because they look Arab to them, they'll say, "Oh, they're Muslim," but they might be Hindu or something, or there might be
I
another
see.
religion. And that's
Mhm.
what I'm saying. Like, I'm hoping that he can, that it is
I see what
valid because I'd
mhm,
have another family member to be
mhm.
able to
That
spend Ramadan with. So I'm really excited about that. That's a special thing that just happened
inshallah,
yesterday, and so
inshallah.
inshallah,
That would be amazing, inshallah, it's true.
and I can inshallah bring him to the masjid. I really hope that I get in contact with him. So please make
Inshallah.
dua that Allah connects us because I don't know how to get in contact with him, but I hope I do.
Mhm. Inshallah, inshallah. Okay, Lizette, thank you so much, and Jazakallah khair for spending the time with us to share your story. We
Um,
really appreciate it. And to everyone who was watching, thank you so much for watching and listening in on our New Muslim Ramadan Stories series. And may Allah make this Ramadan the best yet for all of you and all of us. Ameen.
I mean, thank you so much,
As-
Sister Evelyn, for always
Thank
spending
you.
time to do this and giving your time
Alhamdulillah.
and commitment. May Allah reward you and preserve you and allow you to do many more things like this for us in the community.
Alhamdulillah. Ameen. And Jazakallah khair.
Wa alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum